What's it like?
What's what like?
I never had anybody die.
Scary. And it goes on.
What do you mean?
So, Steven Soderbergh decided to make a horror movie because apparently this guy never sleeps. And it is written by David Koepp, who has been like writer for so many movies, from like Jurassic Park to the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So it's kind of interesting to see him like tackle horror. I know he's done it before, but you know, whatever. Okay, so Presence. So I heard about this movie thanks to Twitter. Yes, I'm still calling it Twitter because that's exactly what it is. And they said, hey, Steven Soderbergh, because that guy doesn't sleep, is making a horror movie. And it is all from the perspective of the spirit in a house. And it's a POV movie. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And they were describing it to me as like, it feels very like that one take kind of thing. It's not, but you know, when they do like scenes, it is all one take, but then there's a lot of like cut to black and then cut out from black and then it starts the next scene, but it is all one take, which is really cool. So this movie, it's, you know, your typical house story, you know, a new family moves in to the house and some of them start to feel the presence of something there, and it just kind of goes from there. So this reminded me of a lot of something like In a Violent Nature, where that movie took something like the Friday the 13th, very much a slasher, and did it from the perspective of the killer, and was doing a lot of that one take stuff. And it was like, all right, that's kind of cool. I like this. So this is kind of the same thing, except it's a ghost story. So I think it was an interesting take on a ghost story. Now, I think the camera work is done very well. I think it's really well done. You know, the fact that it does feel like, you know, a one take, but it's actually it's like, you know, like days are going by and stuff like that. But I like how it's all, you know, like one take, and it's like, yeah, that must have been a real challenge to do this, because it is all like in one house, that it's all one location. And so it's like, all right, that's really cool the way they're doing it. So the camera work was really cool. I really liked it. Performances I thought were really good as well. You know, I would really like to see like Lucy Liu do more horror stuff, because I think she'd be really good at it. And this, you know, this family, your impression of the family is, the marriage is kind of rocky. This is kind of like they move into this house as like a last resort kind of thing. Like they're on their last toes. They're really ready to kind of call it. So this is kind of their chance. And also their daughter just went through something with her friend, so she's dealing with that. And then the son is really pissed off because he's moving new places and like to a new school. And it's like, I understand that, but your family's going through some shit, dude. Back off. So if I'm going to be honest, the son, I didn't feel any like care. Because he had that very much that attitude of like blaming everybody else, which is just like, but you don't know what they're going through mentally. You don't. So how about you shut your mouth? Now, this movie's not very scary. It's not. It's more of a drama film because you're very much watching the drama of this family, and they are very much on the edge of just calling it quits. So, you get scenes of husband and wife kind of, talking and stuff going on, like with their kids. But then you also see like what the daughter's going through. You'll see what the son is going through, and him meeting a new friend in school who comes over and starts to kind of have a romantic interest with sister. Which brings me to this. The main thing with this is the third act. The third act was kind of a little low for me, and here's why. There's a twist in the third act, revolving the son's friend, that personally for me, it didn't work because it was kind of predictable. Because the whole time I'm watching it going, you're giving off certain vibes. I won't say what it is, but the vibes that this person was giving off was like something's up with you. So then when the third act drops and you have this big, like it's supposed to be like a, oh my God moment. To me, it was just like I kind of thought something like this was going to happen. And they also do bring up stuff like early in the movie, like with the daughter, like, this happened with the friend, won't say anything, but like stuff happened. And then they bring it back up and it's like I kind of thought that. Like, I kind of thought this. So, I don't know. That part didn't really work for me. For some people it may, but for me personally, it didn't, because, this character was just giving off certain vibes. I won't say what, but they were just giving off certain vibes. I'm just like, I know, like, something's up with you. So, I don't know. But yeah, the film is more of a drama film than a horror film. I know I've seen a lot of like people say like, oh no, it's a horror movie. It's like, the horror comes from, the family drama, which, is that's, you're literally, this family's on the brink, and then moving into this house is their last chance. So, that's horrifying right there, but it feels very much like a drama, but it has those like thriller elements into it instead of horror. So overall, I think this was an interesting take on a ghost story. Having a family like on the brink of collapse, and you just they just buy this house to like, try to calm things down. And then you throw a supernatural entity in there and you're seeing it through its eyes is an interesting idea. And it works most of the time. Now, like I said, only about half of the family I didn't really care for, because they were either like idiots or they were just real jackasses, where I'm just like, why would you talk to your family like that? Like, you have no reason to talk to them like that. So this does feel like a real life ghost encounter. Do I think ghosts are real? That's a completely different topic. But when I've seen like shows like Ghost Adventures or A Haunting or any of those type of shows, the kind of stuff that is in this movie are very much like what happens in those shows, where it's like, it's small, but effective. So it did feel more real to me. And this also could be a little slow for some people as well. So despite some of the character issues I had and the third act twist that didn't work for me, this is still a film that I think some people might enjoy. Personally, I give it an average. Would I watch this again? Probably not. I would probably watch something more like In a Violent Nature, because that movie, while its pacing was a little bit slower, it had more stuff going on. This one, it was a lot of just like watching, ordinary things happening. But with In a Violent Nature, it was more like, okay, we're watching this undead killer go about their day. And so you had a lot more going on there. So I give this about an average. So despite the flaws I had, this was still an interesting idea that mostly succeeds with its execution. I think I would have, if the writing was a little bit better, mainly from, characters you actually cared about everybody. They weren't like bickering with each other all the time. Even, just, you could have them like, they were still on shaky moral ground, but you can clearly tell they still care for one another. With this, not really. And the third act twist, I think, could have been a lot better. This was still an interesting movie that I think for some people, it might work.